welcome back to episode 2 of the Blue Chips Recruit podcast. I am joined by Camden and Dalton once again. Boys, how are we doing?
Doing good.
Still recovering from last week's performance, but
Yeah, that was a sorry showing for the Vols, but this week we're going to be doing something a bit different. Last week we basically had mid-season awards and recapping on who we think should be in the playoffs, who we think should have won awards, and sneaky playoff teams. This week we're actually going to be looking at some games. We're starting off with last week, very busy week. As Camden mentioned earlier, the Tennessee Volunteers fell in a disaster class to the Oklahoma Sooners. Do you have anything you want to touch on that game, or is disaster class just all that we need to say on that?
I mean, yeah, disaster class really just does sum it up. I think going into the game, there's probably a lot of questions surrounding that Oklahoma defense. Like, are they really legit? Because they hadn't played a good offense other than Ole Miss all year, and I would say, yeah, their defense is legit. I think Joey Aguilar really struggled. I think his turnovers really just killed Tennessee's offense. But despite the 33 points that Tennessee gave up, I think that the defense looked the best that it has all season.
That was by far the best that this defense has looked, and I am still on the Fireton Banks train, but I do agree they looked semi-competent. Granted, that is quite literally the worst offense in the SEC, I believe.
True. Somewhere
around with Auburn and Kentucky, who we also gave up several points to, but Tim Banks did his job on this one. I feel like the blame is more to share on the offensive line for how much time Joey had. Particularly, David Sanders had a rough go-around against this fantastic Oklahoma front seven. I mean, I've seen too many clips at this point of missed assignments by big David Sanders up there where Joey gets lit up. That fumble 6 was David Sanders' missed assignment. There was another play where Joey gets sacked on a pass play where Mike Matthews was working open. That costed the Vols potentially points, if not a first down. So a few opportunities there, but overall, offense looked horrendous. Defense looked really good, which is something that we said all of last year. Dalton?
Yeah, it was just a rough game from the offense altogether. Probably the worst it has looked all year. Joey Aguilar just looked really bad, man, and I don't know how else to put it. The fumble 6, I wouldn't blame on him because David Sanders just missed his assignment, and then Kittelman missed the tackle, letting R. Mason Thomas run for a touchdown on one leg. It was kind of not a good showing, but the 2 picks that he threw were really, really bad. That second one, I was sitting from the stands, and I said pick the second he even looked at the dude's direction. The safety was over the top the entire time. It was a horrendous read, and the second interception was truly maybe the worst decision I've seen a college quarterback make the entire year. To this day, I don't know what he was doing. It was horrible. It was awful.
There was nobody that was going to make a play for the Vols in that scenario from that throw.
And you could see from the first drive, Joey was itching to throw an interception or throw some picks. First play, fumble on a ball. Little tuck rule action, went to throw it, tucks it, fumbles it. And then the second throw he makes to Brazel should have been picked. But Brazel plays defense and knocks it down. So it just wasn't a good look from Joey, not a good look from the offensive line. And the lack of a rushing game just shows his head once again. Every big game we've played in besides Alabama, we can't run the ball. We couldn't run the ball against Georgia. We can't run the ball against Oklahoma. We struggled running the ball against Mississippi State. It's just been a reoccurring problem, and I don't know what it is. There's too much talent in the running back room to continue to have those struggles.
It seems that the Vols are very predictable when they're going to run the ball. They're coming out there every time, it felt like in the second half. It was first down, run up the middle. Teams are figuring that out, and they're just stacking the box. They're daring you to pass the ball almost on first down, and Heupel refuses to. I think at this point it's on Heupel to give up his playing calling duties and focus on other stuff, because how the Vols looked offensively and disciplinary-wise, too many penalties for random things that should not be happening. I think that Hazel should get play calling duties. If it sucks, then he's got to go. But Heupel has some decisions to make for sure regarding the staff and play calling.
I think he needs to take a deep look at special teams. And I know it's the dude's first year, and I don't want to harp too
He's
much
got to
on
go.
it.
He doesn't have any experience.
And
Any.
every aspect of special teams has gotten worse since last year. Punt returns, seemingly none of our guys can catch a punt anymore. Boo Carter has struggled the entire year. Boo Carter, who notably did not play a single snap of defense on Saturday, I just think that shows how the season's gone so far.
And point out once again, the best the defense has looked the entire year.
I agree. So they need major staff overhaul. I think they need to get rid of Banks. They need to get rid of the special teams coordinator. I like Inge a lot, but the linebacker play has been very suspect this year to me. They're missing a lot of tackles. They're missing a lot of run fits. It's just bizarre. And I know Arian Carter was hurt, so I don't want to put too much pressure on him. He did play, and he tried to play a little bit, got in on some snaps, but he was noticeably hurt. So it just seems to be an identity issue right now. And until Heupel makes some changes in himself eternally, maybe starting to look at the little details more, care about the stupid penalties, the unnecessary sportsmanlike penalties, even though that one on Perlotti was very bad to me. The dude was in bounds. So they just need a mentality switch. I don't know what they need to do, but they need some inward reflection going into next year and the end of this year.
Camden, what other games did you see on Saturday that you would like to point out?
I know I mentioned it last week. The thought
Here
of
we go.
SMU
Here we go.
playing spoiler. Golly, Miami once again. Like Carson Beck just continues to choke down the stretch. And honestly, couldn't be more happy to watch it happen. But I think Kevin Jennings looked absolutely amazing.
Yes,
Almost 400 passing yards. Only one passing touchdown, but 400 passing yards. SMU really does not run the ball that much. I think they had less than 60 rushing yards the entire game. But they still found a way to get it done. And I think despite a good defensive game from Miami, they just couldn't get it done on offense. Carson Beck threw 2 picks. Notably,
Typical Carson Beck game where something matters or is on the line. He kind of poos the bed. He's not a good quarterback, Miami fans.
Yeah. I think just the way that Kevin Jennings played might have showed some exposure in the Miami secondary that's looked pretty good all season long. I was watching the game, and last week when we were talking about our picks, there was a lot of talk about Ruben Bain. I really hadn't watched much film, but after watching that game, Ruben Bain is dang good.
He is very
so
good. Very
he's
good.
Extremely dominant. But it really didn't matter that much. So.
Yeah, and he doesn't show up on the stat sheet that often. This game, he had 1 solo tackle, 1 assisted tackle, and 1.5 TFLs.
Yeah.
That is a good number of TFLs, but no sacks, nothing else on the stat sheet. So, great player, fantastic player, but teams are finding a way to somehow neutralize him almost in terms of stuffing the stat sheet.
Yeah.
Dalton, you have any other comments on this one, or you have a different game you want to talk about?
Nah, it's just more on the Carson Beck train. He's just not – he doesn't have it in between the ears, and I think anybody that's been watching closely the last 2 years can see that there's just something mentally that's not there with him right now. The last interception he threw was awful. He had the dude open from the moment the dude broke from the route, but no, he sat there, he stared the dude down, and then when he did decide to throw, he decided to throw it 10 miles an hour and try to float it to the dude. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what happened to him, but Miami fans have been real quiet this last week the last 2 weeks, I would say, about Carson Beck and his play, and Georgia is finally vindicated because the people, Kirby Smart and the people inside of Georgia's program knew he wasn't very good. They knew he wasn't a leader, and you can see from the 2 losses they have this year in his answers in the post-game press conferences, he's not a leader. He's pretty selfish. He was blaming the play calling on Saturday. No, just play better. Throw the football. The 2 picks you had someone open. You just stood there and stared him down. Figure it out. But going back to Ruben Bain, I know he didn't get a sack, but it just sticks out in my mind. When SMU at the end of regulation went and tied the game with a field goal, they had one holding call at least, and Ruben Bain just ran right through the middle of the defense, and they held him and they put him back outside of field goal range. The secondary let him down, but Ruben Bain is so freaking good. The reason he doesn't have as many sacks is because he's getting hacked and held every single time, but he is a top 5 pick. But Miami's cooked. They're not making the playoffs.
No.
End of story. They're just cooked.
The ACC has too many teams at the top to compete for a spot for Miami to afford losing games against SMU and the like. Camden, you have any other games you'd like to mention?
Another ACC game. NC State, Georgia Tech. NC State took the dub 48-30. CJ Bailey, man. That guy looked inspired.
He's looked great.
He's looked great all
year. Just hasn't had much help around him. He had a starting tight end, Joe Lee, go down, I think, a week or two ago. So he's losing weapons. But, man, that is a guy who can definitely be up there as QB1 for, next year's draft.
Yeah.
He's poised. He has the build for it. He's 6'5", I want to say. He's huge, but he's very smooth. And so, great player. If you ever want a QB to watch for next year, potentially, CJ Bailey is your guy. What does it say he's listed at?
6'6", 210.
Wow.
That's huge.
He's a big guy.
Absolutely. And he likes contact. He invites
He loves contact.
He's like Byron Brown in the beginning of the season. I remember that performance against Boise State where he was just wanting people to come hit him. But I think Jaden Scott, he played extremely well as a fill-in for Hollywood Smothers. What was Smothers' injury?
Smothers' injury? I'm not sure. I think it was a lower body, but I'm not sure. I think he's supposed to be I saw something where he was supposed to be back either this week or next, but I'm not sure what it was.
Let's see. Dealing with an undisclosed injury.
Okay.
So that could mean anything.
Yeah, really anything. But yeah, no, Jaden Scott looked amazing. 196 yards on the ground, 11 yards, 2 catches for 11 yards in the air. So over 200 all-purpose yards, 8.2 a carry. They were truly dominant, and I think that was a large part of the game that NC State took Georgia Tech's identity, that idea of ground and pound, kind of gritted out and then win towards the end of the game. NC State took that from Georgia Tech and dominated the game from the line of scrimmage, and it showed up at the end.
And that is by far the most amount of points Georgia Tech has allowed all season. The other even being close is Wake at 29, so 19 more points NC State scored than Georgia Tech has allowed. So that just not a great sign for Yellow Jacket fans looking forward. Like, our defense can't be, got to stay strong through the year. Can't be letting up big-time points here at the end. Dalton?
I think they got to switch up their, not for offensive philosophy, but I think they just have to switch the way they go about it as well. There's no business that Haynes King should be having 20 rushing attempts, and then Jamal Haynes only has 6. I haven't been watching the games that closely, to be honest, and this game was going on while I was in Neyland, so I didn't get to see it. But the way they're using the running game is fascinating towards me, because I know Haynes King's a bulldog. I know he's a stud. But I don't think you can continue rushing him 25 times a game. He can't be your only rushing offense. And Jamal Haynes is a good running back. He's been good for them for 3 years now. So I don't understand the lack of usage there. Maybe he's hurt, maybe he's not, but it's very odd. And Haynes King isn't going to make it through the season if they continue to run him like they are. So I think they need a philosophy change there. And it just goes back to what we were saying last week. The ACC is just going to cannibalize itself. There's too many good teams, and there's not any elite teams. So teams are going to lose games, and this was one we said. This might have been one we said last week that we were looking at, but I don't know. Offensive explosion from the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I think that it just goes to show can Georgia Tech really rely on Haynes King to get it all done? And I honestly, going forward, I don't think that they can. 20 carries is insane for a quarterback. And I feel like for a team that's not a service academy, 20 carries is just way too much.
But that is their whole philosophy, is running options with Haynes King for pretty much the entire game. He doesn't have the greatest arm. We knew when he was at Texas A&M, he was a much more of a runner. What was the alleged 40 time? It was like 4.4 or something,
They said at one point he was the fastest guy on their team.
which is ridiculous. But this is not a strategy that can keep up. Haynes King grew fantastic quarterback, but at this point in his career, it's not looking like he's going to make the NFL. So at this point, it's more so, do you run him till the legs fall off, till the wheels fall off, or do you just try to preserve him a bit more? I mean, clearly something isn't working. You got to change how you're doing it. The question is, where do you go?
Yeah, and I think that they were kind of Brent Key in that offense were kind of just following the philosophy of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and because they were 8-0 up until this point. But I think now you got to step back and you got to take a look and you got to just think, man, what can we do differently?
Agreed. I'm going to touch on a game. I know that Camden has this game pulled up as well. It's the Cincinnati at Utah game. Hey, Jack Glennon, if you're listening, what about Devin Dampier, baby? What about Devin Dampier?
Oh
Sorsby versus Dampier. Utah demolished them.
Absolute domination.
45-14.
17. 17.
14. I have it pulled up
was
right now.
45-14.
14. Cincinnati
wrong in my
never
notes.
held the lead.
No.
Never
Not
held the
once.
lead. Sorsby had his second interception of the year. The Utah defense is playing well. Nearly 300 yards of total offense for Devin Dampier. Utah dominated the time of possession. Like, it wasn't even
It was like
close.
40-20 or something like that.
40-20, almost exactly. They had about the same yards, but 40-20 in time of possession. The only team that I can even think of that could win a game like that is year one under Heupel. When Tennessee went to Lexington and beat Kentucky, they had about 19 minutes of possession and somehow won that game. Fantastic job by Utah. This is, again, another team that I think is going to make some noise for the playoffs. They're going to make some noise in that Big 12. This is a good team. If Devin Dampier can remain healthy, Utah is a team to beat and to look out for to upset and make some noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if you go and you look at the box score, the team stats, it does look kind of balanced, but I think that's skewed. In the third quarter, Utah had a 75-yard punt return touchdown. So that took away a whole drive of offense from them. But, yeah, no, I think Dampier and Wayshawn Parker, very, very good backfield and made up by 2 transfers, by the way. Shows the landscape of college football nowadays. Yeah, I think that secondary made Sorsby look stupid. They played so dang well. 11 for 33.
I was about to say that. I went to go look at it.
33.
11 for 33, 220 passing yards. 100 of those are after the catch. One touchdown, one pick.
23.2
One fumble
QBR.
lost. Did not have a good game.
Not at all. And yeah, Dampier, very dual threat heavy as well.
He wants to run the ball.
He wants to run
He
the ball.
wants to run
I
it. He
mean,
will not wait for his
no.
progressions, but that is what makes him so special is he is very shifty and athletic to where he can do that and get away with it at a very high rate. Dalton?
Yeah, Sorsby looked the worst I've ever seen him this year. I never thought he was that great of a passer because he has struggled, especially in the completion percentage part of the game at times this year. But 11 for 33 is awful. And it was a situation where they had to throw the ball because they were down the whole game. And when they did have the ball, they would only have the ball for 2 minutes. So they had to try to throw it. I understand that, but there's just no shot. There was not one aspect of the game that Cincinnati was better than Utah at. There's not one aspect of the game where it was even close. And Utah's in a great position. I think their schedule is pretty advantageous. If they get hot, they could do something in the Big 12. Don't they play one of BYU and Texas Tech?
They've already played both of them. I think
they lost.
Those are their
to
2
Tech.
losses.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
they lost to BYU.
So they don't have to play either of the leaders for the Big 12
They have-
for the remainder. They have Baylor, Kansas State, and Kansas.
So I don't think they make the Big 12 championship just based off the tiebreaker situation they are in and their 2 losses being to those 2 teams. But never know. And if they do make the Big 12 championship, if Dampier's healthy and Dampier's running around, they have a chance to beat anybody. So Utah's a very good team, just had to run up against the 2 best teams in the Big 12 earlier in the season this year.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the play-by-play, Cincinnati's possessions, all of their possessions that ended in punts were 3 and outs. They had 3 plays. They were done. Their 2 touchdown possessions, one was 8 plays, one was 2 plays. Their second quarter, 7 plays, 51 yards, missed field goal. 3 plays, 57 yards, fumble. 3 plays, 0 yards, punt. 1 play, 0 yards, interception. And then 9 plays, 55 yards, end of the half. They just could not get anything going on offense.
I'm looking at Texas Tech's schedule because that is the second team, and they do have to host BYU, so that could be a very interesting game for that. He seems that their starting quarterback, Baron Morton, it was back, played all right against Kansas State in a convincing victory. So that's big news for the Red Raiders is you have your quarterback back now. He was out for almost a month. So gets your QB back. That's a big one. Houston's in front of them too. So that is very interesting to see. We'll see who does Houston have yet to play. They have to play UCF, TCU, and Baylor. We talked about Baylor and TCU, I believe, last week. They lost to West Virginia last week.
This week. Yeah, this past week.
Past week for Houston.
They could not stop West Virginia at all on offense.
And that's a very bad West Virginia team.
Terrible West Virginia
They
team.
lost to Ohio in week 2. So not very good. But I want to move on to the next game. I understand that it was this week, but I still want to touch on it because it was the first night of midweek action last night. Akron.
Praise the Lord, it's back.
Akron dominated the still winless UMass Minutemen, who I believe are the worst team in college football by a wide margin.
By far.
But that's not the game I want to talk about. I want to talk about Miami of Ohio falling to Ohio. Neither of these teams are Ohio State, just Ohio and Miami of Ohio. Very confusing, I know, but Ohio had a 49-yard game-winning catch in the fourth quarter to take the lead and then forced a turnover from Miami of Ohio. This game put Ohio into the first-place spot of the MAC. This is a sneaky good Ohio team. I would not want to face them in a bowl game because they have, as I said earlier, beat West Virginia at the beginning of the year, lost to Ball State somewhere at the beginning of conference play, which is not good. But MACtion is always pure cannibalism. Yeah. There will be losses to teams you should not have losses to. That's just how MACtion works. But I just want to touch on that one a little bit. Dalton, do you have any game you want to touch on from the past week that we haven't covered yet?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Vanderbilt-Texas game. Very fun game, very interesting game. Going into it, people were wondering if Vanderbilt could keep it rolling, and shocker, they could not. They made it close at the end. The score is very
misleading.
Score did not indicate what the game was. No. Diego Pavia put up a historic performance in garbage time, so congratulations to him. But I think you just saw the athlete mismatch on the field on Saturday. There are some concerns brought up from the game. Texas's secondary is chopped cheese, and they have been the whole year. It's very concerning. Mm-hmm. And they're still in the playoff hunt. They're still very much in the SEC and playoff hunt. So they go to Athens next week. So
Athens is rough.
Gunnar Stockton has shown at times to be able to pick apart defenses. And if their secondary is really bad, they're not going to be able to cover Branch, Noah Thomas, and those tight ends. They're lucky Colby Young's out because Colby Young would do some not very good things to that secondary. So, biggest news from the game, though, in my opinion, it's not close. Arch Manning looks competent, and not just competent, he looked very good. Mm-hmm. He's looked good the past 2 weeks. 2 of his touchdowns, at least one of them I know was just a wide receiver screen or wide receiver wheel, but still looks very good, looks comfortable. And they're giving him time in the pocket, which was the biggest thing. And if Arch keeps looking good, Texas can make some noise because that defense is still very talented. Their skill guys are still very talented. So Arch Manning, big story coming out of the weekend.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, Texas is definitely a team to look out for. They do have like a top 5 hardest schedule for the rest of the year because they have to go to Athens and then they have to play A&M at home in the last week of the season. So that'll
But
be
still, the committee has them in as of right now at 11.
I was surprised about that.
But the bracket, they had them as the first team out because of Virginia
Winning the ACC.
and then Memphis being the group of 5 team.
That's right, but that's sneaky. You got to keep an eye on that for sure.
I want to take a second to talk about Jeff Sims' legacy game. Oh
Jeff
my goodness,
Sims'
that
legacy
kid
game.
absolutely balled out versus Iowa State. He had 200 plus rushing yards as a quarterback, and I don't know if y'all saw his jersey has ended up in the Arizona State Sports Hall of Fame.
Wild.
He looked amazing.
Which is something that has only been said about the highlights of Jeff Sims coming when he was transferring out of Georgia Tech.
Yeah, exactly. Something else, I think that this week showed that the Heisman race is still wide open.
Yes.
Mendoza did not play particularly well.
Julian Sayin looked incredible.
Julian Sayin looked really good. Ty Simpson
Did not play, so that would probably help his case more than hurt it, especially with a subpar Mendoza performance.
And two more things. Danny Scudero, 215 yards, 2 tutties. Just gonna say.
I was telling you, you gotta watch out for him for that Triple Crown. He's still in competition for
sure.
it currently.
And then I know Raiola got hurt, but I think it is time to have the conversation that Matt Rule is just as bad as James Franklin.
Not crazy because he never did anything.
If he's not, he's worse.
He's worse.
Because that Nebraska team can, anytime they ever see a semblance of the rankings, can never get anything done.
Yeah, and he's supposed to. What is his specialty? Because you
Recruiting.
were a Baylor fan.
Recruiting is his specialty.
He's a recruiter.
But yet their talent is still not that great.
No.
Especially, they got good receivers. I like Dane Key a lot. I like Emmett Johnson at running back, but they're not very talented. And a big time program's going to make a mistake hiring him this fall because a bunch of these programs fired their coaches like Florida, LSU, and Penn State to go after that big hire. And I think
It's a flashy name.
They're looking around right now, and I think they're kind of noticing. Besides Kiffin, there's not really a good big hire possible out there right now. So one of them is going to hire Matt Rule, and they're going to make a mistake because Matt Rule has not really won anything of note. He won the Big 12, and the Big 12 was a bottom feeder of the conferences. So they're going to make a mistake, and he's going to get a $50 million plus buyout, and he's going to get fired in 4 years because he's not going to live up to expectations.
He actually never did win the Big 12. He got to the championship game, but they fell to Oklahoma.
Because Oklahoma State's running back dove for the pylon.
That was Dave Aranda.
That was
Dave Aranda. You're right.
That was Dave Aranda.
He never won the Big 12.
He never won the
You're
Big
correct.
12. He got to the championship
Why am I arguing
game.
with the Baylor guy over Baylor?
He got to the championship game, fell to Oklahoma. That was the year that Jalen Hurts was on Oklahoma.
You're right.
And Baylor blew like a 30-3 lead at home against Oklahoma in the regular season. Lost in the Big 12 championship game, and then ended up losing to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, so he's officially won nothing ever.
Yeah, no, he's not won anything. I don't understand how he ever got an NFL job.
It's because of what he did at Temple first.
And
He went 11-2, I believe, at Temple and had an incredibly stacked team full of NFL talent. He had P.J. Walker at quarterback, Robbie Chosen-Anderson at receiver, had Hassan Reddick at edge, and then went to Baylor and performed decently. He did well at Baylor. He did well. He wasn't elite, but he did well at Baylor.
2 years before that 2019 11-2 year, Baylor was 1-11. I think that was his first year, and they really didn't blame him for anything because he came in and the program wasn't really anything. But being able to turn that around to 11-2 with a Big 12 championship berth 2 years later, I think that probably was what did it for him. But it is hindsight is always 2020.
Absolutely.
But looking back on it, it's crazy to see that he got an NFL job.
So he will definitely be a flashy name on this coaching market. Another name that I don't think is being mentioned that I believe should, Manny Diaz, head coach of Duke. Look at what he's doing to Duke. Yes, he inherited a good situation from Mike Elko, but he is still doing well for Duke. I believe they won in Death Valley over the weekend against Clemson. I believe that was the first time since the 1980s since that happened. So Manny Diaz is doing a great job at Duke. I wouldn't be surprised to see him mentioned in some of these bigger job hires, potentially. There's not that many head coaches who are fully locked down and out of these conversations. But you look at who's actually going to leave. Lane Kiffin is absolutely at the top of that list.
Yeah.
Dabo Swinney could potentially be fired from Clemson. He'd be at the top of the list for several programs.
Oh, absolutely.
Who'd be more than happy to give him a lot of money as long as he utilized the portal.
Brian Kelly is available.
Brian Kelly should not go to a top-tier job.
I don't think he should.
He should go to one of the jobs that are like a Virginia Tech. That is the kind of thing where he can build them back up to being on the edge of a bigger tier job, and then they should fire him and hire somebody else. But Brian Kelly does not need to be coaching a big-name school for many reasons. One being that he's a terrible head football coach, and two, that he is a terrible human being. But Brian Kelly should not be in these names for some of these big-time jobs.
I think in terms of the coaching carousel for this upcoming offseason, I think the craziest thing for me is that Marcus Freeman's name has been linked to the LSU job.
Which is wild.
Because, one, I don't think he would leave. And, two, it's crazy that we're in the situation again where there's a possibility that the Notre Dame coach leaves for the LSU job, just like with Brian Kelly.
I think Marcus Freeman would be more in tune to leaving than some would think, because I know they made the national title game last year, but I have a tough time in this new age of college football. I have a tough time seeing them as being able to be one of those teams that can win a national title.
That's fair.
I know they made it last year, but why would you not go to LSU where their academics are less rigorous? They can admit a bunch more kids. And everyone knows LSU's a gold mine. There's 5 stars walking around in your hometown. The environment's insane. The boosters are insane. You don't have to deal with a bunch of the problems. So I think he would be more – I think he would listen to LSU more than some people would think.
I completely agree, but I would like to move on to discuss this week's upcoming games. Yes. And another guy for me who is very high on a lot of these position boards, Tulane's head coach John Sumrall. He takes his team to Memphis to play against the current Group of 5 bid. This is going to be a very interesting game. Very interesting. Tulane has looked really good at times this year, but it was early in the year. They beat Duke early in the year, and their former quarterback, Darian Mensah, who took about $8 million, is the rumored amount, to go play for Duke and lost to his old team. But Tulane got boat raced last week by UTSA. I mean, not even close. It was a horrific showing for the Green Wave.
Loss.
Horrific. That is not a very good UTSA team. Granted, they don't lose at home. I don't believe they've lost at home under their current coach. I don't remember the name of their coach, but UTSA at home, unbeatable.
Jeff Traylor.
That is what it is. Thank you. But my big part of this is, can Tulane's defense hold on against Memphis? Tulane allows 25.5 points per game on defense. That is not good. Not good. Memphis is at 37.7 points per game. That is a lot. That is a big difference.
Very high-powered Memphis offense this year, and that's shown up against teams like South Florida, teams like FAU, teams like Arkansas. But I think a big thing going into this game is, what does the game plan look like with Jake Retzloff? He is, like, for some reason we've seen a lot this year, a lot of dual threat, wanting to run the ball quarterback. I mean, he does lead the Green Wave in rushing yards, which is crazy to think about. So it's just, and Tulane, that whole ideal has been shut down in the past. Like, they didn't look great against East Carolina, and that was largely due to a down game, rushing the ball wise for Retzloff. So yeah, I'm excited to sit down and watch that one. 8 p.m. So
9 p.m. Friday night.
Yeah. Sorry, 9.
Will be a good game. Potential group of 5 bid there. If Tulane can knock them off, there's an argument sneaks back open for USF, being that group of 5 push. But I would also like to talk about another game. If your name is Jack Glennon, and only if your name is Jack Glennon, you might want to close your ears on this one. It's going to be a terrible game, but a great game at the same time. Sam Houston State traveling to Oregon State. Sam Houston is 0-8. They're arguably one of the worst college football teams. I would have personally UMass below them, but you can definitely argue for Sam Houston. And Oregon State is 2-7.
Ooh, and they are coming off a quote unquote big win against Washington State last week.
They're on a win streak right now. They won the Pac-2 against Washington State last week, and then they beat FCS Lafayette.
Well, they do still play Washington State one more time. I don't know if you realize that.
That's such a joke.
Yeah, for some reason they're playing twice this season.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
they gotta figure it out or leave that conference. It's kind of
they're rebuilding it. I
don't know. It's getting to a point.
This is a battle of the 2 worst offenses in the country. Sam Houston State averages about 17 points per game, 320 yards per game, abysmal. And they're 24 for 108 on third down.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
That's terrible.
That is horrific. That is 22% on third down. Oregon State, not much better. 20 points per game, 348 yards per game, and a still not good 36% on third down. So, very not good offenses. 2 of the worst defenses, specifically Sam Houston State's. 41 points allowed per game, 480 total yards. Oregon State is better on the point side, only giving up 30, but almost 500 yards of total offense. So we'll see if Sam Houston can actually figure out how to run an offense on Saturday nights at 10 p.m., the second to last game of the slate, just before Hawaii takes on San Diego State, Jack Glennon's other team. But I would like to open it up to you guys. What are some games you're looking forward to this week?
I think the big one, obviously, is BYU, Texas Tech. Winner gets firm control of the Big 12. And it's going to be a fun one, kind of a quarterback duel between the two, with BYU's true freshman phenom, Bear Bachmeier, wearing that horrendous number 47 on his back. Don't get me started. And then we got Morton for Texas Tech, who's finally coming back, finally healthy. So,
yeah.
And it's interesting. Texas Tech is 10.5-point favorites at home, which was a bigger line than what I thought it was. But if you look on paper, Texas Tech has a lot more talent around the board than BYU.
It's that oil money.
All that oil money, all that recruiting. I saw something yesterday. They got like the number 1 quarterback committed to them in the 2027 class or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, are we serious? Yeah. But it's at Lubbock. Morton's healthy. Douglas is playing out of his mind. Their running backs are running around all over the place. So I like Texas Tech, but Bachmeier's dual threat ability, I think, is going to make it interesting for most of the game.
Yeah. I think going into this game, I think you want to look for Cameron Dickey.
Yes.
Texas Tech starting running back to have a big game. BYU tends to bleed rushing yards to RB1s on opposing teams. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Dickey have a great game. This is so far Bear Bachmeier's biggest game of his career. And I'm excited to see how he's going to perform in that. I think he looked serviceable against Utah earlier in the season. So we'll see how he plays this week. BYU's offense is very balanced, though. Yes. I was looking at the stats earlier. They have 1,744 passing yards, 1,734 rushing yards as a team on the season.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So I think it's very balanced. I'd like to see how the pass rush of David Bailey and the all-around play of Jacob Rodriguez fares in this game.
That was what I was about to mention. Is this is a very, very good Texas Tech defense. I particularly remember against Utah, it was a very close game up until the fourth quarter where Texas Tech's defense stood strong and the offense finally found some momentum. So you have to be wary of the Texas Tech defense because they are aggressive and they will completely dominate you, and that will force your defense to have to be out there a whole lot more time than you want. And the Texas Tech offense is too good to be allowing them to have multiple opportunities.
Yeah. I think going into this game, I think 10.5 is crazy. That's a crazy line at home. But I don't think Tech will cover. I think Tech gets it done 35-27 this weekend, though, especially at home. And shout out to College Game Day for going to 2 Big 12 games in a row. Kind of unheard of in this day and age of college football, with being run by the SEC and the Big Ten. So I want to give props where it's due.
Yeah, they're gonna have a great time in Lubbock. They're gonna have so much fun.
So much to do.
So much to do in Lubbock, but it's gonna be fun. I do just think Texas Tech is more talented, especially their running backs. Their running backs have been playing really well. They are very balanced. And Borden, when healthy, is a stud, one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the Big 12. So I just think they have too much. It's one of those lines where it looks fishy to the point where I'm kind of like, there's a reason it's this big. So I don't know. It's going to be fun, though. 12 o'clock kickoff is diabolical, though.
True.
We need to figure it out.
For the only top 10 matchup of the week, I think a 12 o'clock kickoff is a little diabolical.
Yes. But
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild is the only word I have to describe it. And then it's also on ABC. So sorry, all YouTube TV holders, that game is not going to be available to you. You're going to have to find a way to illegally stream it because greed and major corporations. Anyways, back to college football.
Money.
That's what it's turning out to right now.
Proud Hulu user, by the way.
All right. What are some other games y'all are looking forward to?
I'm really excited to watch this Oregon-Iowa game.
Oh, God.
This weekend. I think that obviously Oregon, coming from the Pac-12 last year, has brought their offensive identity of wanting to score the ball a lot. But I think Iowa's defense is good enough to where they make this game look like a traditional Big Ten game. If you are a betting man, bet the under. We do not condone betting, but if you are a betting man, I think you should bet the under on this game. You
can send any and all complaints about that to Camden Coltrain. Find him on IG. He's the ginger kid. It's not that hard to figure out who it is. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I think Gronowski, he has not been over the top. He's been just good enough to get Iowa to 6-2 this year, and I think he does just enough this week to where Iowa upsets Oregon.
It's a big claim.
That'd
make a lot of teams happy. I'm looking right here. It says on Saturday there is a chance of rain and snow. So
it's gonna be so
towards
fun.
the end of that game. Look for some potential snow because it's going to be a high of 46, so it'll probably be rain, but low of 26. So some snow might be falling down in Iowa City, Iowa. For that one.
Seeing an over-under of 40.5 just warms my heart. I love it. I can't wait to watch this game. Some good old-fashioned, just hard-nosed football. And Oregon has been struggling offensively. They only scored 21 on Wisconsin in Eugene a couple weeks ago. And they are coming off a bye week, which I think is a little advantageous for them. But it's going to be close, in my opinion. This is a big game for Iowa. Iowa is technically not dead for the playoffs if you're looking at their record. I don't think they'll make it, but they don't. But they're not going to play like they're dead. The people in that locker room believe they still have a chance. So I think special teams is going to be huge in this game. Field position is going to be humongous. Iowa has a very good punter. I know big talking points going into a college football game, but
typical Iowa talking points going into a college football game.
But I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be amazing. I don't know. It's going to be a beautiful, ugly mess on Saturday.
Yeah. I think, Dante Moore, I think, is going to struggle against this very good Iowa
do too.
secondary.
This very good Iowa secondary, along with poor weather, with the
Yes.
rain, it's going to make
Yes.
that ball hard to throw.
and
We'll see how the Oregon offense responds running the football.
and they
but-
really have not been able to all
Exactly.
season. So I think that philosophy does not change this game. I like Iowa 17-13. Very low scoring, very grinded out football, but I think Iowa gets it done this week.
I mean, I'm looking at Oregon right now. It says they have the 9th rushing offense in the country, 237 yards per game. So if you want to listen to Camden, feel more than happy
I
to,
don't think
but
that those numbers are.
it might be a bunch
tell
of
the real
garbage
story.
time. But once again, big game for a potential college football playoff team. Any other games that we feel the need to touch on going into this week?
I have to say it. I'm looking forward to it. I think Georgia versus Mississippi State in Starkville is a sneaky good game to me.
Mississippi State, known tough place to play. It's not fun. I quite frankly think it's not fair that they get those cowbells. We don't need them, but they definitely do, and it doesn't make it any easier for sure for opposing teams.
And Mississippi State has played every game close this year except for one in College Station versus A&M, but I think that's kind of fair. They get a mulligan for that one. A&M's just a wagon this year. But big trap game for Georgia. Texas coming to town next week.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia, which they've looked pretty good, but there's been a couple of lulls this season that gives me a little sign for concern. And that defense has looked very concerning versus fast-paced teams. They gave up 40 to Tennessee. I think they gave up 40 or near 40 to Ole Miss. And Mississippi State's another one of those teams that goes very quickly. I think Shapen, I think Brenton Thomas, I think Anthony Evans. I think they get Fluff Bothwell back this weekend, which is huge for them. So I think it's going to be a very good game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be rowdy. I think Georgia pulls it off in the end because Mississippi State has just shown an inability to win close games against good teams late. But I think Georgia fans are in for a long one, and they're going to have to – it's going to be a nail-biter in Starkville this weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think and Mississippi State coming off their first SEC win in a year and a half. So congratulations to them. I think another SEC game you got to look out for is A&M at Missouri.
Yes.
First full game for Missouri this year without Bo Pribula at quarterback. What is the offense going to look like? You would assume it's going to be a heavy workload for Ahmad Hardy. And if we can assume that, I'm sure A&M can assume that, and I'm sure they're going to game plan for that. So we'll see how Missouri is able to respond to
They
that.
have to find creative ways to get him the ball. They have to use these short pass plays as an extension of the run game for Ahmad Hardy. He is simply that good of a talent and creator with the ball in his hands that you have to find ways to give him the ball and let him work in space. Like Camden said, no Bo Pribula, no Sam Horn for Missouri. So they're
the
down to
third
their
string.
third string. They are not going to be running the same offense that they have all year with a third-string quarterback. They're going to rely on a potential All-American running back in Ahmad Hardy. A&M knows that. What can, whatever their coach's last name is, it's always tough for me to pronounce. So
Drinkwitz?
there we go. Thank
Yeah.
you. But what can he game plan on offense to work around this? And on the other hand, how can this Missouri defense stall what has seemed to be a great A&M offense?
Well, the one thing Missouri has is they got a pass rush, and their pass rush is very good. They got two guys on the defensive line, which I think are going to be first rounders with Damon Wilson and Zion Young. They can create havoc plays. And A&M has shown times this year they allow Marcel Reed to get hit a little bit. Their tackle play hasn't been necessarily great in comparison to the rest of their team. So I think Damon Wilson and Zion Young, I think it's going to, in order for Missouri to win, it's not going to have to be a fluky game, but they can't beat A&M straight up. They're going to have to get some strip sacks. They're going to have to get some havoc plays. They're going to need Marcel Reed to turn the ball over, which he has at times been prone to doing. So they need to get Marcel Reed under pressure early and often, and they can't allow these long developing routes to Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, because if they allow that, Reed will hit them, and Craver and Concepcion will go for 70 yards. So I think more than anything, even more than Ahmad Hardy, I think that pass rush is going to be the key to the game. And if they win, they're going to need those two guys, Wilson and Young, to have huge games.
Yeah, I think if they can get to Reed early and often, we really can see what Marcel Reed is made of. Because I think coming into this game, there's been kind of questions circulating all season of, can you really rely on him to perform in big games?
And so far, he has definitely stepped up to the plate.
But once again, another test, especially at Missouri, it'll be rough. I think that environment, I know that they still have faith in their team. I know they're 6-2, but I think that the fan base will show up. I think A&M is going to have a large rushing attack on this game, especially if that pass rush is able to get home early and often. They'll look to establish the run game, control the line of scrimmage, and honestly, I think they're going to succeed at that. Their rushing attack has been pretty solid all season. So I do think that A&M will win this game, and honestly, I think that they'll win it pretty handedly just because of the uncertainties of Missouri on offense. But I am excited to watch how this game unfolds.
Yes.
Any other games that we'd like to tap on before we get to what the committee said yesterday on Tuesday, November 4th?
I'll throw it out because
throw it out there.
I think Bama LSU is still going to be a somewhat fun game to watch, even if it's not close. Night game in Bryant-Denny is always a sight to see. It's going to be fun. DeBoer's probably going to be rocking the black hoodie of death. So I'm just
undefeated in the black hoodie.
I think I'm more curious just to see what is LSU's energy level like. What do they look like without Brian Kelly? Because I've not seen one person stick up for Brian Kelly since he's gotten fired. Neighbors posted a video of someone kicking rocks. Every person has talked about pretty much how bad of a human Brian Kelly is. So I want to see what their energy level looks like. Does Nussmeier look like a different guy? Do those receivers look different? Does their defense get back to what it looks like earlier in the season? So I don't think they'll win, but I think it's just curious. I'm going to be looking to see what LSU looks like without Brian Kelly. And if they do make it close, I think it just is more of an indictment on Brian Kelly for how he has managed this season and the last couple seasons as well.
Yeah. I think the night environment at Bryant-Denny will be a little too much for LSU to overcome, personally. I think another game to look at is UCLA-Nebraska. I understand Raiola is out for the rest of the season, but I think UCLA will be able to get it done, especially at home. And it starts the conversation for Matt Rule's way out. I know I talked about him earlier in the episode that I don't think he's a very good coach. And I do think that you're right. I think that a team will try to make that big splash of a hire on him, but I think that they dropped this week. And you talk about I know they just extended him, which is, I think that they did that for his buyout.
Yeah.
But I think that a loss this week talks about more of a firing than letting him go to another team, if you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Now that we have all these games out the way, we talked about it last week a whole bunch, but the committee officially announced their first college football playoff ranking, their first top 25 of the season, letting us know where they stand on everything. What are some teams that stand out on their placement to you guys?
I think that the top 8 is placed pretty well. If I had any grievances, I would say jump BYU over Ole Miss. BYU is undefeated. They've looked good all season. I understand Ole Miss's one loss was to Georgia, and they play in a stronger conference, but I would say BYU has that edge. I think Notre Dame at 6-2 at number 10 is absolutely way too high.
Way too high. With their best victory being USC, I think that them being the first 2-loss team is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that the committee helped them out by putting USC at 19 and makes that best win look a little better than it actually is. But, I mean, that loss to Miami has looked worse and worse throughout the season, and they really don't play anybody for the rest of the season.
The USC ranking's awful to me.
Yeah, I do think that USC is way too high.
Their one win is a big win against Michigan.
At home.
So, do with that what you will. I agree that USC is a bit too high for my liking, but then it poses the question of all those other teams around them, they've lost or they've beaten. So it's very hard to place it, especially if you consider head-to-head, because I like the Michigan team. I liked them. Their losses are to USC and then to Oklahoma. But by head-to-head and the fact that both teams have 2 losses, you can't put Michigan in front of USC. And then I like Washington, too. I feel like Washington's very underrated. But they've lost to Michigan and they lost to Ohio State. So you can't rank them in front of USC or Michigan simply because of these head-to-head conflicts, which are very annoying. Mm-hmm. I can understand why the committee sometimes ignores them, but they do seem to be admiring or at least honoring that head-to-head this year.
They are very prevalent in this first rankings, hence why Texas is over OU. Texas is over Oklahoma. I do not think Texas deserves to be the number 11 team in the nation. Their offense has come to look more like it should, like we thought it would here lately, but I just don't see a world how with their best win being Vandy and then after that overtime to Mississippi State and what Kentucky also took them to overtime. I just don't see a world. And I know that their loss was week 1, or one of their losses was week 1 to Ohio
the defending
State.
national champions. The other one being to Florida, who I will say has looked better.
Florida is very competitive. Florida is very competitive. They have good talent. I just don't see how Texas's resume. I don't understand how Texas's resume is enough to put them at number 11.
I agree.
I think it's interesting because if you look, I thought that too, but then when I go down the list, I don't know who you would necessarily put above them because they did beat OU, which is a good win according to the committee, and I do think it's a good win.
It's a good win.
It's a good win. You look at Utah, and Utah is interesting to me. They blew out Cincinnati, but how good is Cincinnati actually? And then they haven't beat one team with a pulse the rest of the year, so.
Ouch.
Well, they beat Arizona State, but Arizona State didn't have Sam Leavitt that game. Mm-hmm. So how good of a win?
But we just saw how good Arizona State looked against Iowa State last week with Jeff Sims going for 200 rushing yards as a quarterback and 2 scores.
Then they only scored 23,
21, 23, something like that. I think that I know that like their schedule isn't all that, but I mean, Virginia at 8-1. They really don't have any quality wins. I mean, they beat Florida State.
They're winning. They're winning. That's what it is.
That's just all that it is that they are winning. They are 8-1. They are riding it.
And that one loss to that pesky NC State team again.
Yeah.
Known upsetters. They're having a very weird season over there.
It's just a weird program.
Very weird program.
Very weird program.
They're either really, really good or very mid, but able to win big games.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, beat Virginia, barely beat Eastern Carolina in a rematch of their bowl game, beat Wake Forest, lose to Duke, lose to horrific Virginia Tech this year, get their doors blown off by Notre Dame, let Pitt drop 53 on them, then come out and beat Georgia Tech. Very, very, very weird team.
Very bipolar.
Very bipolar. And that's another thing I want to hit on. Virginia Tech suffering their first loss of the season to a team Georgia Tech, thank you. To a team that has upset other teams so far this season. and dropping them to 17.
I think that is a little.
That is a bit of an overreaction because I mean you
low.
have 5 ACC teams in a row with Virginia at 14, Louisville at, or excuse me, not 5, but 4 with a Vanderbilt squished in the middle. Virginia, Louisville, Vandy at 16, Georgia Tech at 17, Miami at 18. Putting Georgia Tech and Miami right next to each other when Georgia Tech, have they played them yet?
No,
they have not.
And they don't.
They don't play, but Georgia Tech has looked better all year, and Miami has 2 losses at this point.
Yeah.
I just don't think they respect the ACC in general.
They don't.
Which
And
they
this,
shouldn't.
this
They
ranking
should.
proved
It's
it.
it's not a
It's not a serious football.
It's not at all. And I mean, in the past, it has been a little bit with Clemson, but Clemson we've seen this year is absolutely not good. Granted, I think they got robbed in that Duke game. That
They
pass,
did. That was
that pass
awful.
interference
That was
call was
awful.
absolutely bogus. But it's just ACC is just not good football. It's not great football. It's okay, somewhat good football.
It's
not
good
great.
football, not elite, as Dalton was saying earlier before the show.
It's just interesting in general. Georgia Tech, they don't really have a quality win on the year, and to lose the way they did to NC State, I kind of wish they won because I was curious last week where the committee was going to put them because the AP had them up at 8. They had them 8 or 9, and I was very curious on where the playoff committee had them because the playoff committee cares a lot about quality wins, and they did not have one. They did beat Duke, but are we sure Duke's very good? They barely beat Clemson, who was 3-5, and they lost to Tulane, a group of 5 team. So
Granted, they hadn't won Death Valley in 40 years. So you've got to take that with a grain of salt. Yes, that was a not great Clemson team, but Duke hasn't historically won in Death Valley. So that is a better win than I feel like some are giving credit to, even
like
if it's a bad Clemson team.
it's like if Tennessee beats Florida in Gainesville in 2 weeks. Florida is not a good team, but I'm going to walk out with a huge smile on my face, even though we should probably win that game.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and honestly, on the thought of Tennessee, I don't understand how Tennessee is ranked.
We
in
should.
this-
Not a clue.
in this
Shouldn't
playoff
be.
ranking at 6-3, and granted, all 3 of our losses are to good teams. All 3 of our
Absolutely.
losses are to top 12 teams in the nation. But after that, our best win is Mississippi State in overtime.
Which is a Mississippi State team that just got their first conference win in 1.5 years. So Tennessee doesn't have a strong resume.
No,
They
not
should
at
not
all.
be ranked. They have lost close games. You can give them that, but where are the wins? There are no wins.
And 2 of those losses, I think you can argue weren't that competitive. The Bama game, I struggle
The
with.
Bama game is a pick 6 away from being a close game.
True.
I think that's fair, but I don't think we should play that game because at the end of the day, you did lose by 17, and there wasn't really once during that game where I felt like we were going to win ever.
Fair.
And then the Oklahoma game,
Is a Max Gilbert kick away once again from potentially being a win.
but in that game, Joey threw 2 very bad.
I'm not saying
interceptions.
I'm not saying he looked good or Tennessee looked good. I'm saying
I
Tennessee-
understand the argument.
Tennessee would have won that game with a Max Gilbert kick, which is the second time we're saying that this year, I would like to point out. So that's got to be addressed in some way or manner. I don't care if he's technically the most accurate quarterback or kicker in
That was
Tennessee
such a
history.
stupid statistic. That
It's
was
like,
awful.
yeah, cool. What is his in clutch?
Yeah.
In the clutch moments, what is his field goal percentage? This year, he's missed 2 potential game-altering field goals with the game winner against Georgia and 1 to go up against
And
Oklahoma.
and it just it makes me upset, honestly, a little that the offense played so poorly against Oklahoma. It wasted a great defensive game, and that
A rare one this year.
a rare one this year, and that like despite playing that bad, we still only lost by 6. Like
it felt like
it felt
Tennessee
like-
got ran out of their own stadium in that game, and it was a
towards the
6
end,
point.
yes.
And it was a 6 point loss.
yes, exactly. Like it shows that this season is a little of a disappointment. I won't lie.
It
But
was never going to be the national championship year this year.
No.
This year was going to be that step back, especially because of the quarterback situation. I will say Aguilar has outperformed pretty much everybody's expectations of what he
100%.
was going to be this year for the Vols. But with that, he has elevated the expectations that Vols fans have for him. And this game, he was back to App State, and that was the disappointment and the fear that Vols fans had.
I think the first quarter of Georgia diluted a bunch of people's opinions on the season. Because honestly, it diluted mine. I thought we were going to be about what we are. And then the first quarter of Georgia happens, we lose because he missed the kick. I'm like, are we good? Like, are we really good? And I think everyone was just holding on to that first quarter because you lose that game. You beat Mississippi State in a nail biter on the road. You struggle with Arkansas. You kind of just I don't even crawl through these games, and you're like, but what if we play like that Georgia? What if the offense plays like Georgia? But I think that is shown to be kind of more of an outlier than anything. I just think going into Georgia, everyone thought we were like an 8-4, 7-5 team, and I just think because of that Georgia performance, a bunch of expectations got switched maybe a little too soon because I just think this was always supposed to be a transitional year, and it just got boosted very quickly because everyone saw how good Aguilar looked and how good the team looked. But it is what it is. It's been fun, if anything, and the season's not over. You can still go 9-3 and go to a good bowl game. I'd love to go to Florida for a bowl game. Shoot,
Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh my goodness, I would have a blast.
I don't think that there's a chance that we make the Pop-Tart Bowl this year.
I don't think so either, but it's fun to say.
But the bowl prediction that I'm seeing the most is against Miami in the Gator Bowl.
I would love that.
I would absolutely love that.
I would love that.
I would love to watch that
Even
game.
though Carson Beck would probably look like a Heisman finalist.
He did the last time that he played us.
I don't think he would play.
He probably wouldn't, actually.
He'd probably opt out
Ruben
for the
Bain
draft.
wouldn't play. He wouldn't play. C.J. Daniels wouldn't play. Mark Fletcher probably wouldn't play. So, but then you look at us. Brazel wouldn't play. McCoy wouldn't play. McCoy might not play again this year.
I think McCoy's coming back after this week because he needs to prove that he's somewhat
He still
healthy.
has it, and he still looks as good
See, I
that
thought
he did last year.
I thought
Even
that
if it
until
is
we
for 2
lost.
games.
I think he might kind of.
Really?
I don't know. It's not really.
Tough to tell, right?
It is tough to tell because he does need to come back, but I don't know how much him and his camp are going to value coming back and potentially getting hurt on a team that has no chance of winning anything. So I'd love to see him back just because I want to see him in a Tennessee jersey playing on the field one more time.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
One final thing I want to touch on before we end this episode 2 of the Blue Chips Recruit podcast, is the Group of 5 race is still fairly wide open in my eyes, especially as I mentioned earlier with the Tulane at Memphis game. Tulane finds a way to win that game. It's wide open. It opens the door for USF to come back in and potentially sneak in. They might have the best win of any Group of 5 over Florida, a Florida team that looks more competent every week. But another team I want to throw out there, James Madison. The Dukes.
The Dukes, baby.
They're hot.
Alonzo Barrett.
They're hot. They're hot. Alonzo Barnett has looked fantastic. They just blew out Texas State. They blew out Old Dominion the week before. In the last 2 weeks, they've dropped 52 and 63. Well, 3 weeks because they were on a bye last week. But this is a team whose only loss on the year is 14 points at Louisville.
Who has looked better
and better every week. So, sneaky team for the playoffs. If Memphis falls and the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, cannibalizes itself, James Madison,
in the Sun Belt,
home of former head coach and now head coach of Indiana, Kirk Cignetti, in the Sun Belt could potentially make the Fun Belt relevant in national regards. That is what I want to say on that. That is a huge if, though, is they need the AAC to cannibalize itself a little bit. Do you guys have any comments on the Group of 5 bid?
I would love James Madison. That when they went to College Game Day went to James Madison.
Electric.
That's might be my favorite environment that's ever. When they get rolling, that place is very fun. So I would love it. I think they need Memphis to lose maybe twice. Like they,
At least once, because I would say that UAB loss is so bad.
it is really bad.
Yeah.
And then they need USF to lose again, in my opinion. And I think
USF
that-
and maybe even Tulane
yeah,
to
so
lose one along the
it's
way.
an uphill battle, but it would be fun. I'm excited for the group of 5 because
There's no clear team like there was
No.
last year
Yes.
with Boise
No.
State.
Not at all.
So we'll see if that makes the committee want to just get rid of the group of 5 bid,
I think
simply because last year Boise State was so good and gave Oregon a run for their money that they got that group of 5. And this year there is no clear team. That could potentially lead to some discussions being had. Camden ICU wanting to form a sentence over there.
Considering the fact that we will probably face more playoff expansion soon, I don't think that they'll get rid of the group of 5 bid.
Interesting. I'm not sure about more playoff expansion.
I know that
definitely a
they've
new
talked about
format.
A
definitely new
format, potentially for sure.
I think that, but they've definitely talked about taking it up to like a 16 team, which I don't know how I would feel about that. But yeah, I think the group of 5 race is still wide open. Right now, I'd say I think Memphis for me is the
I would love that.
is the favorite. But honestly, as a Tennessee fan, I would not like to see the only team to make the playoff out of the state of Tennessee being Memphis, considering last week we were looking at Vanderbilt being in there, Tennessee having an outside shot.
Don't get me wrong. Vanderbilt still has that outside shot of sneaking in. They win out. There will be conversations to be had. It won't be good conversation, but there will be conversations to be had about Vanderbilt.
Being
But-
a Memphis kid, I would love Memphis. I would love Memphis to make it.
That's fair.
The city would be electric.
The Liberty Bowl.
That place is a dump. But I still love Memphis football, but they need a new stadium.
That will do it. Any final comments on anything?
I'm good.
I'm good.
We're going to enjoy the Vols bye week, I can assure that. But that will wrap up episode 2 for the Blue Chips Recruits podcast. That has been all for your host, Nick Rose here. And analyst Dalton and Camden. Thank you, boys, for joining.
No problem. No problem.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Peace.